Night. Maine's maritime heritage goes back way before we became a state and before America became a country. One relatively recent part of that history is currently sitting on the bottom of the New Meadows River while local officials in the Coast Guard decide what to do with it. And a young man with a long connection to its history is trying to find a way to save it. 207's Don Kerrigan has our story.
In Harpswell, where the harbor becomes the New Meadows River, Harbor Master Paul Plummer has a problem. Between Sheep and Dingley Islands, a sunken boat.
You know, from right here, it doesn't look like a massive boat, but that drone shot just speaks a million words.
This drone shot, taken by Destination Marine, showing the Jacob Pike, a 75-year-old, 83-foot former fishing boat that sank during the first big January storm. Surrounded now by oil spill booms because some has been leaking.
So she's still sheening a little bit, although today we're not seeing much, so that's good.
His problem is what to do about this. The boat was brought to Harpswell last summer, he says, by a local man who planned to rebuild her. He anchored the Pike in this spot.
As the harbor master, I had concerns that it wasn't seaworthy. I contacted the Coast Guard, asked them to come do an inspection. They did. They deemed it to be sufficient.
But the big storm was clearly too much. And on the other side of the world, that word reached 21-year-old Sumner Rue, a merchant marine student working on an oil tanker in South Korea.
Honestly, I saw it and I was just at a loss for words.
Sumner, you see, is Sumner Pike Rue, the great-great-grandson of Jacob Pike, who had the boat built, a boat that is part of his family's history.
It was like a knot in your chest. It was just like, man, that's just like the end of an era. That's it. It's over. It's done, right? I mean, that is all 75 years just gone.
And part of Maine's history, too. The Jacob Pike was launched in 1949 as a sardine carrier at a time when those little fish in a can were big business for Maine. Sumner's family owned the Holmes Packing Company with sardine plants in Rockland, Eastport, and Portland. The sleek and rugged Jacob Pike carried their fish and was well known along the coast for decades. But then the sardine business vanished. The plants burned or were torn down. These few remaining old sardine carriers that's what's left of that industry.
That's it. That's it. There's nothing else.
Sumner, who grew up with the water on Chebeague Island, also grew up with stories of the Jacob Pike. He even got to sail on her as a child long after the family had sold the boat. The Penobscot Marine Museum had the Pike for a few years, he says, but couldn't afford to rebuild or maintain her. So the old carrier went back to work carrying lobsters from the islands. And now the Pike seemed gone, but not for Sumner Rue.
The only thing that I could think I could do was just to raise awareness, let people know what this incredible thing is now gone, and we have a very short window to save it or it be gone forever.
He ordered shirts and hats and created a website to remember the Pike and raise money to somehow save her. In Harpswell, Paul Plummer says the Pike's owner initially promised to take action.
He said that boat will not be there this spring when the boating season starts. Those are the words out of his mouth to me.
But he says the owner so far hasn't done anything. And with oil leaking in the water, with an oyster farm close by, the Coast Guard issued the owner what's called a notice of federal assumption, then brought in a contractor and divers to pump out the oil. They check on the site once a week, and the Coast Guard is now developing a plan to raise the boat and remove any more remaining pollution risk. But what then? That still is not certain.
There's been concerns around town what's going to happen to it, and I think the biggest concern is that it's going to stay there and why someone can't be held responsible.
That process is still unfolding, but the harbor master says the Pike has to go. Is it causing problem at the moment?
You know, it's an eyesore. You know, it doesn't belong there. It will be becoming hazard to navigation.
The Coast Guard says they might order the Pike removed and destroyed unless someone responsible will pay to take her on shore. So Sumner Rue has been spreading the word, campaigning really, to find somebody to help save the Jacob Pike from a very inglorious end.
Ideally, I'd love to see her in a situation where is hauled. She obviously needs a full rebuild, so it would just need to be torn down and rebuilt. And then I would love to see it in a position that it's educating people locally, educating people that come from away, because it needs to be enjoyed by people. It's had 75 years of working, and its time is over for working. It's really over now. She's in retirement.
Yeah.
She needs a retirement, yeah. And one that's not laying on the bottom of the ocean.
Time and tide, they say, wait for no one. Sumner says he's realistic and knows the Pike may not be saved, but she is family and history, he says, so he has to try.
It's a big mission. While Sumner Rue works on a ship in Europe, the town of Harpswell is taking steps to deal with the sunken boat. Harbor Master Paul Plummer told us that the town is preparing to summons the owner for abandoning the Jacob Pike. He said the owner did not submit a plan for removing the boat as required, so they're moving ahead with the legal steps. An official declaration that the boat is abandoned, the harbor master said, has to come from the state.